All right, guys, thanks for being patient there. And we'll resume here with our slides. We're still talking about management, and this slide wants us to think about the levels of management here. I think because most of us have worked in a job, we are aware of these different levels of management. I think what's important is we want to get to how their functions are slightly different. We'll get to that in just a second. But just breaking out top management, obviously CEO, president type people. Middle management are kind of department heads or divisional heads, branch managers, and then you've got your more frontline managers who are like a supervisor or an area, a team lead, those sorts of things. And then you have a level of employees who are not management at all. Middle management might be a general manager. Sometimes general managers are considered top management as well. It just depends on the size of the organization. Here's some other titles that you'll see. Chief Information Officer is kind of a new one. Again, technology has grown so much. You'll even see a Chief Ethics Officer from time to time now because of ethics being of even more importance with some of the scandals we've had and those sorts of things. So the female executives that are out there, and again, I don't know how dated that is, but here's what I want to get into next are these managerial skills that every manager needs, but some managers, based on whether they're top management, middle management, or frontline management, will need different amounts of each of these skills. We'll be utilizing these skills differently in their workday than another manager might. So that's what I want to look at first. So technical skills, let's understand what these are first. Then we're going to look at how each manager might utilize those differently based on whether they're a top manager, middle manager, or frontline manager. Technical skills. Think of doing something with your hands. Think of an actual task that is maybe physical in nature and has a beginning and an end, and you can complete it. A lot of entrepreneurs get into running their own business because they have very strong technical skills. Maybe they're a mechanic, maybe they're a plumber, maybe they're a cabinet maker, maybe they can write great code, but it's a technical skill. It's something that you can produce on your own. Human relation skills, on the other hand, are now more about people skills, sometimes called soft skills. But this ability to relate to people, to keep them motivated, to get those folks to do a lot for them, do things properly, do things ethically. Those sort of human relation skills become pretty important. Now, and you're not just talking about employees here. Obviously, managers need to have human relation skills with regards to their employees, that's for sure. But you're also now starting to talk a lot about customers. How do I relate to the customer? And suppliers. So these human relation skills, we want to think beyond just, again, our own four walls. And then conceptual skills. This one's the one you may not have heard of before, or you may not have had at least this label around. Conceptual skills, I like to describe, and it's slightly different than the definition, but the way I like to think about conceptual skills is my ability to picture something that is not right in front of me. My ability to anticipate, to think about, to envision a solution that has not been mapped out for me already. Okay? So can I understand the concept? To use the term conceptual. Can I envision this even though it's not in action right now? Along that same lines, can I see how that part, this part that is an unknown, this part that we may be coming up with, this thing that's new, can I understand, can I think about, anticipate how it fits in with other parts? Okay, so that's a lot of what conceptual skills are doing. So what we need to think about then is if I'm a top manager, which one of those skills am I going to use? If I'm a middle manager, which one am I, and so on, okay? Well, let's start with middle or our frontline managers. Our frontline managers are going to still need all three skills, there's no doubt about that. But technical skills might be the most important for a frontline manager. What does that mean? Well, because I'm on the front lines, I need to be prepared to jump in and maybe do everyone's job at some point over a month, over a year, over 6 months. So I need to have that actual skill set so that if Johnny gets fired, Johnny is sick, Johnny doesn't show up, whatever, I can jump in and actually do Johnny's job if I need to. So that's why you see in this graph that technical skills are getting the greatest portion of the frontline manager's time. Then you've got your human relation skills, still a pretty good chunk for a frontline manager. If you look, human relation skills are pretty balanced, with the middle manager maybe having slightly more time spent in human relation skills. Why is that for frontline manager? Well, obviously, I've got to motivate those employees. I'm the one that's right first to meet the consumer or our customers. So I need to have the ability to be able to deal with people. People might be frustrated, they didn't get the shift they want, or they're not feeling good, or fill in the blank of why they might be frustrated. I need to be able to deal with that. And same thing with the customer. They may have had a poor experience. Can I deal with those people, help them sort through whatever solution needs to be done? And then the smallest for frontline managers, or they're calling them first line managers, are your conceptual skills. Why is that? Well, again, most of the time, we've had a strategic plan, a tactical plan, and then an operational plan is typically what the first line manager is working off of. So they've been given a pretty detailed direction of what needs to happen and how that task is already connected to tactical and strategic plans that exist. How those objectives are already connected to goals that the organization may have. So it doesn't require a ton of problem solving, conceptual thinking, as much as it is executing what has been mapped out. So that's as you can see, that's their smallest section of skills. Take a look at the middle manager. Makes sense. Don't need quite as many technical skills. In fact, you'll find some middle managers can be hired into an organization and have never worked there before. And they can learn a little bit about the technical side, but they're going to spend a lot of their time then on the human relation skills and the conceptual skills that they might need to come up with. Thinking about the human relation skills, by mere where they're positioned in this graph, you can see that they've got to be able to relate to top management as well as the frontline manager. So they're straddling that middle, and they've got to be able to work with both types of individuals. So it's a special skill set. Can they get down in the weeds when they need to with the frontline manager, and yet can they conceptualize and talk the talk when they're working with top executives? Conceptual skills, you'll see a little bit more here. Why? Because again, we're talking, the middle managers are oftentimes operating at that tactical plan level, meaning the strategic plan might have been set by the upper management, but middle management is still putting together the operational plan and the tactical plan, and they've got to be able to envision what resources do we have. If we utilize these resources for this project, what will that do over here? Okay, and so there's a lot of conceptual thinking that still has to go on as a middle manager. And then your top manager, even less technical skills. That makes sense, right? The CEO isn't going to come down and run the press. He doesn't need to. Okay, still a good chunk of human relations skills. Think of some of the other people that the top management might be interacting with. Still employees, obviously, and still the customer to a certain extent. But now start thinking of things like banks, investors, those sort of folks the top management needs to have the ability to relate to. Maybe the community, maybe they're active on some community boards, okay? And then conceptual thinking or conceptual skills are their biggest category, and that makes sense, right? Because they are coming up with the vision, the mission, the strategic plan. All of that is conceptual, right? Because if I just started the business today, we don't have anything in place. Everything I have to try to picture. If I do that, this could happen. It's all conceptual thinking. Saying thank you. Again, talking about how can you help your human relation skills. Just say thank you. A lot of times as managers, well, I can't give out a bonus. I can't fire anybody. I don't have that much power. Oh yeah, you do. You got a lot of power. As a manager, you can do a lot simply with public recognition. Hey, great job. Thank you. Everybody, did you know that Bobby did this for us this week? That's awesome. Okay? So, being active and verbal, you can go a long way with. Or who are some of the people you might think? There's a bunch. I like this point number 3, the little people. Think of the people who never get a thank you. Cleaning staff is a huge one. They're usually in at night. No one's really recognizing them. They kind of think their job is thankless. But we've all also been in places where it wasn't clean, and you're like, man, that really brings me down. Or I wouldn't want my customers to see this. So if you commit to showing appreciation to people, you'll find plenty of people to show the appreciation to. Staffing, especially the frontline managers, you could spend a significant amount of your time dealing with staffing. It's in those human relation skills. We might be hiring, firing, recruiting, retaining, promoting, developing. All those things will be inside staffing. And a lot of times there isn't time in your day to get that done as a manager. A lot of times you're having to do a lot of this staffing effort outside of your actual duties of controlling, organizing, and producing, whatever your company's producing. So a lot of times this staffing can be very burdensome. You're sitting there thinking, man, I don't have time to do this. But yet I have to hire somebody, because if I don't, we never get back to where we can cover everything. But I don't even have time to place the ad, much less do the interview. So you get really these challenges from a staffing standpoint. Kind of the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. So if we don't really if we don't have a systematic way of either screening or training, developing, firing, if we don't have a process for ensuring that we have talent in our organization, then we won't go very far. Because our organization is only as good as the people that we have in it. And those people that we have in it are only as good as my selection process, my training process, my development process. And so even though there isn't time in your day, if you're going to be an effective manager, you have to work at this stuff. So there's some quick tips. I'd throw in there, don't hire your buddy. It's not on the list, but man, it can really be a problem. So hiring friends, girlfriends, whatever, it just can be tough. I do like number 2, don't get caught up in the applicant's appearance. Now, obviously, if they're going to be in front of your customer directly and they can't dress properly, or they don't give off the image that you want, surely you can consider that. But what I think it's saying here is, don't let your personal prejudices, your personal biases, that person's old, so they're going to be lazy. That person's young, so they're going to be an idiot and not know what they're doing. You have all these stereotypes and prejudices rolling around in your head. It's very easy for you to accidentally allow those to manifest in your hiring, and you don't want to do that. Don't forget about feedback. Don't give promotions or raises just because they've been here a little while. Okay, so just some good ones there. Okay, we're going to move on to leadership here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the slide one more time. And again, so we'll do a part 3. So leadership is up next. So let me pause this and I'll be right back.